lot of milling?
Well, would be, but I could do with another hand, really. This is the setup here. I'm trying to enlarge the valve cutouts.
Yeah.
Whilst wearing old glasses that I can't see through. This is for Paul Dove.
Yeah.
With the Alpha, mate. So he wants, he needs the pockets which are existing in the pistons. He wants them 35 thou deeper and very slightly bigger.
Right. So that's original one, is it? And
Yeah.
that's your.
So that side there I've modded.
Yeah.
I've done one of the pistons already. So what I'm doing is I'm sure I'm going to get a few comments on this little clamping system, but it works, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
Whatever works in engineering.
Well, it's like you said before, you can't have a jig for everything because you'd spend years making jigs.
That's the trouble, yeah. We could have
basically use them.
For the Cosworth, I have made this bar because
you do a lot.
I do a lot of the Cosies. Put pockets in every piston that I put in there. So,
yeah.
But we don't do too many of these. There's loads of pistons I put pockets in, but they all seem to be different diameter pins. So unless we make bars like this with holes in for every one,
yeah,
it takes me longer to make that than it does to do the job half the time. So what I tend to do is get 2 gudgeon pins out the piston set, 1 in each end, and we just clamp down. Not too, you don't want to clamp down too viciously, just enough to hold it flat down. And this one's pretty, what I'm doing is using a 32mm diameter cutter, and the actual diameter of the valves on the inlet side are a bit bigger than that. So what I tend to do is go to the back of the cutout with the cutter and then go left and right.
Right, I see, yeah.
As long as we do them all the same, and then Paul's obviously going to balance the pistons again, it doesn't really matter. So what I do, mate, I've got the angle right. It's not the same as the Cosi, so what I do is undo these 2 bolts either side and we can adjust it to get the angle of the cutout right. So all I do is just go up, we just get it on 0 on the up and downward position, fire up the cutter and just bring it down till it touches on. There we go, and back it off, okay?
Right, yeah.
So if I go in without a cut on, that's literally taking about 1 thou off. What I'll do is I'll move the cross slide over until I get that cutter pretty much in the centre, just visibly, of that cutout, okay?
Yeah.
And then we want to 0 both of those, so we know that the X is that way. The X is 0, and then what I do is go feed in until it touches the back of the cutout. We'll do that by sound. There we go. You can see you can hear it starting to cut now. So I just 0 that and wind it out. I'll put a 10 thou cut on. Wind in gently, and I'm just going to wind in until the Y axis gets to 0. That's why I'm doing it manually and not automatically.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to plough into the back of the piston. It's all a bit of a fragile setup, this. So I can usually, if I feel this, that's what's good about this jig. If I feel that, I can sort of feel how difficult it's taking for the cutter to cut through the material.
Yeah.
So if I'm unsure, if this starts vibrating, you can generally feel how difficult it is, and then I tend to come up with another idea if it's too much. So one more 5 thou cut, be 35 thou. There we go. And then I'm just going to go left to right until it cleans on the edge of the pocket. So 1.7 millimeters is what it's been cleaning at. I'll go the other way now, 1.7. Then back it off gently. And that's done, mate. So we've 35 thou deeper, the cutouts very slightly wider at the edge.
Yeah.
Easy as that, isn't it? Yeah. So I've got 2 more to do now.
Nice.
It's a very manual job, this.
Yeah. It's to use your head a lot. I always find at college milling a bit weird.
I used to hate milling at college.
Yeah.
Preferred turning, I think everyone did.
Yeah.
But now I much prefer milling. I love this machine. Bear in mind this was a free machine. Probably the best machine I've ever had, especially for the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I love milling. I'd love one of those XYZ CNCs, really.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Be able to do all sorts with that. I could write my own programs for the cutouts and.
Yeah, that'd be
although
cool.
for what we did, for what we do, the only reason I've never thought about buying one is because we only do sort of one-off stuff a lot of the time.
It would only really make sense for the Cosworths, and other than that,
it would. But then you've still got to change the piston.
Yeah. And
turn them around. So you know, it's a bit pointless,
it's a waste of time, really, isn't it?
Unless you set it up. But no, it's not worth it, really. But no, it'd be nice to have. How's the A series getting on?
Pretty much all done.
Yeah?
Just got to pop the rear seal in. We were waiting for that. John's just picked it up.
Lovely.
So get that in, get the rocker cover on, and that is
looking
all done.
good, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a productive 2 or 3 weeks, isn't it, for us,
it has,
really?
Yeah.
We've got
it felt like for a while I don't know. I felt like I'd.
Well, it goes through. You go through stages where, because we've got several engines on the go, a lot of the time we seem to be at similar sort of stages with all the motors.
Yeah.
We're waiting on back order parts and this, that, and it seems like you're going nowhere. Your outlay, cost of parts is quite a lot, and nothing seems to be coming in, just outgoing, and it depresses me. But then you'll go for a week or two where everything's done at once, and the money comes rolling in.
I do enjoy sort of when you get to doing the build, because I don't know.
Turn the TV off so we don't get done for copyright.
Yeah, I like doing the building because it's when you feel like you're actually progressing to something.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're just doing the machining and bits and pieces and that sort of.
The best bit is when all the machining's done, the painting's done, and everything, and then it comes in here clean, painted, machined, and then it's assembled.
Chuck it all together.
It's lovely. Like with the A series, these are typical example, really, when they come in a hell of a state sometimes, like oily and the paints are flaking and horrible, and but then when you get it all laid out on the bench, it's lovely to put back together, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you got the hang of it then. You quite like these?
Oh right, yeah.
Better than the old Land Rovers then.
Yeah, I don't want to see a Land Rover again, to be honest.
I'm sure we will, but hopefully not too soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are nice. These really.
Yeah.
I've never actually put a complete one together myself, to be honest. It's usually John does them, but...
The worst bit about this was, up in under here, you've got like a rubber seal.
Oh, right.
It just goes like...
Well, a half moon?
Yeah, like a half moon that goes over one of the main caps.
What's in the other half?
Nothing. What, in the other half?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, so it goes over the top of the main cap.
Yeah.
And then it rests in like a... thing in there.
Oh, I see.
So it's just like a seal.
Yeah.
It's like a gasket, really.
Yeah.
But dropping the engine down onto that, that's difficult because you've got this back plate.
Oh, I see.
And then you've got the main cap, which is just there. So you're like got a little thin gap to get it.
So you have to have this.
On.
You have to have this back plate on then before you can do that.
Probably not actually. You can probably time it up. So that's got all the timing gear on this side of it.
Yeah. But there's only a gasket in this half of the back plate, isn't there, on the block?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably could do that. Maybe an idea for the next one.
Well, it's your first one, isn't it? It's probably a learning curve.
But it wasn't that bad.
No.
It was just a bit like because I was dropping it on with the crane and I was doing it myself with no one sort of guiding it or anything.
Yeah.
It was a bit...
I did notice someone emailed me actually at the weekend,
Yeah.
saying that he used to do a lot of these A-series, and he said, be very careful of the gearbox. There is sort of not filings as such, but you get like a paste.
It's like a paste, yeah.
Yeah, he said that it
that.
tucks itself into,
Yeah.
but we've cleaned this thoroughly.
Yeah, we have. But when I took the drain plug out, it had exactly that on it because it's a magnetic one.
So you get like a bit of a
it's like weird.
bit of a haircut on it.
Yeah, it's a magnetic sludge.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, we've cleaned it out as thoroughly as you can.
Yeah.
But obviously, unless you strip it and do the box on them, then you know it's like anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can't see it, you don't know whether it's clean. But we've cleaned it as thoroughly as we can.
Yeah. Without yeah.
So this one's nearly done. Got another one to do after this.
Yeah.
My Cozzie's done over there, mate. Me
Oh, yeah.
500, and I'm very happy with it.
Looks a beauty.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Something familiar about that red on top.
It is a familiar red. It's the same colour red that's on your A-series over there.
Looks good.
It looks lovely, doesn't it?
Really
The thing is, I've always had the red mixed for these Cosworths, but it's not a Ford Cosworth rocker cover red. It's just a bright red.
Yeah.
So what colour they were originally, I shouldn't think that. I think that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that they've mixed the same colour as I normally get for these for that.
Oh, right.
So it looks very close to me anyway.
Yeah.
Looks
No,
nice.
It's a nice colour, that.
Yeah, it's almost got like a very slight orange sort of tint to it, which I think the originals did sort of have.
It's a weird red because it's almost a bit dark at the same time as being really bright.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. The block, if you notice, we haven't painted the block, and there's a reason for that, because it's original paint. It's got all the original machining bits on here, and it's in excellent condition.
Yeah.
It's got all the... So
Nothing
it's...
wrong with it, was
no,
there?
there's no point. We don't want to paint that. We don't want to take the originality away unless it was horrible. But
Yeah.
no, the customer wants to keep that. It's got the original core plugs and everything in it. So it's probably going to add some value, that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really happy with that, how it's come out.
Does it look so beaut?
But, move on. How much does this engine cost to do? We got the invoice there, mate.
Yeah.
Now, we've said in the past, I have done things like this in the past where we run through the cost of building a Cosworth. Many people probably know we don't stick a tax on because it's a Cosworth.
No.
A lot of people will stick a brand tax on or whatever they do, but we don't do that. We just charge our hourly rate, the amount of hours. We sort of split it into three parts, so we'll usually do the parts, the labour as one in hours, and then the machining processes on top of that. So how much does this one cost? Well, just done the invoice, and the customer is extremely happy with it. Not that it's anything to do with it, but bear in mind this is a genuine RS500 car, so it's going to be worth a few quid.
The car's going to be worth a lot.
But not, as I say, not that that is anything to do with it. If it's just only something to do with it when the car's probably worth the same or less or near to the engine, the cost of the engine build. It's a percentage thing, really, isn't it? But this one here, mate, we've charged 40 hours. We're £80 an hour plus the VAT because we are a specialist.
Yep.
Which, to be honest, a lot of specialists seem to charge more than that these days.
Well, you just look at even like dealerships and stuff. Some of them are getting on 150 quid an hour now.
I know, yeah. Ricky at RE Performance, who does me Lambo, he's 120 quid an hour, I think.
Which I think's fair enough.
Yeah, so £80 an hour. You know, this is a basic tall motor, what we call a tall motor. So a tall motor is from rocker cover, sump. You know, extras would be obviously manifolds. That's when extra time goes in. So usually it's around 50 hours to do one of these with manifolds on and etc. Because you've got to blast the manifolds, you've got to strip the inlet like that. There's going to be a few hours to strip that, and then there's obviously cost of plating and what have you. So we haven't got that with this, but we've had to do the cylinder head. Bottom end wise, you've got sizing of the rods, balancing, small ends. The pistons, we've had to modify the crowns, work out the compression ratio to get it back to standard. There's quite a lot of work in there.
Yeah, well there is,
so
yeah.
we've got 40 hours at £80 an hour, so that's 3,200 quid plus the VAT. And then we have got, so that's how we do it on the hours. Then we've got all the machining processes. So we've got the cylinder head, rebore, reface the block, dynamic balance of the crank assembly, machine the piston crowns for the correct protrusion and compression ratio, size and balance the rods, machine valve pockets in the pistons, check and polish crank journal, reface flywheel, machine the block for the oil jets, the studs, etc. And then you've got all the bits on top. So the customer did supply some bits here, so we just we had to supply the crank bearings, pistons, bottom end gaskets, the ARP stud and nut kit, etc. And then there's little farty bits, isn't there, like nuts and bolts and, you know. So the total bill for this engine is £5,800 plus the dreaded,
well,
which
without the VAT, that's quite like, well, I mean, yeah,
standard stuff now, isn't it? Really,
stuff, yeah.
To be honest, a lot of these engines that you see that you can buy for probably getting on £3,000 plus the VAT from people like Euro Car Parts, etc. for your everyday car, they're not going to be spending anything like the time on these or on an engine than we do. So they're not going to do all the sizing and balancing. They'll just have a rod, blast it or whatever, and it's going to go straight back in.
That's the thing. They more replace only the very, like, the bare necessity sort of things.
They do,
like,
really, just to get it.
If it's got a big end on and it's wrecked a rod, they'll replace a rod and a timing chain,
and
the rings, and then pop it all back together.
They'll grind the big ends or whatever they have to, and they'll do the bare minimum to get it going again.
Yeah.
And a lot of these places, I'm pretty convinced they work on a sort of ratio with an engine of warranty to non-warranty. So what we're tending to find is they used to stock a lot of engines, but now they'll do customers' own units. And the reason for that, I believe, is that if they're having them, if it's firstly, there's so many different variations of the same engine now. Thank you very much, John. So many variations of the same engine now, there's not worth stocking all of them on the shelf.
No, yeah.
And two, they ain't going to stock motors that are just going to keep coming back. So we're finding a lot now that they just either don't do them or they're not going to stock them. So it's a customer's own unit. This one's going to be slightly dearer, obviously, because we've got turbocharger on top of that, plating, manifolds. We've had to put liners in this. The cost of the liners, that's probably £1,000. Yeah, so this is a wet liner, mate. It's had a lot of modification done to the top of the block to make it open top deck. So it seats on the base of the block on the base of this liner here.
Yeah.
And then this is flush with the top of the block, and the gasket will clamp that down. These are an old Nickersil liner, but we've managed to replace them with a ductile iron liner, which is machinable. So the ductile iron comes with some material left inside, and we've honed it to the size we want depending on the piston clearance.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I say, because these are ductile iron, these are Nickersil, you can see the wear ridge in there, look.
Oh yeah.
They're very old liners anyway, so there's nothing you can do with them. So yeah, as I say, there's an extra £1,000 or so because of the liners and the fitting, but that's similar sort of money. And to be honest, like I say, every engine is going to be similar sort of money.
Well, the thing,
depending on the hours and the parts prices.
You've got to think as well, with this one, obviously that one, like you say, is going to be a bit more, but that's almost ready to just drop in and hook everything up and you're away.
Exactly.
Whereas that, there's still work to be done on it, isn't there?
Yeah, so the manifolds have got to be tied up.
Sort of.
Exactly. Yeah, we are still, I know people are going to probably spot that, we're missing a bolt and a washer. The reason for that is because he didn't realise was this is a different thread and a different washer in the auxiliary shaft. It's a finer thread.
Okay.
So that's what we're still waiting. Apparently he's found one and it's in the post, so I shall get that on for him. But as I say, on a probably £100,000 car, It's not too much money to have the heart of the car looking like
yeah.
that. Obviously, yeah, extra bits on it, manifolds he's going to have to clean up himself if he wanted us to do it. It's obviously just extra work, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it don't matter whether it's a Ferrari motor or a Morris Minor here.
Yeah.
It's going to be similar sort of money.
Well,
the hours are the same.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know,
the main thing's the parts, isn't it? That's going to vary the prices.
Yeah. It's irritating on the Cosies. It does bug me because some of the parts are fairly reasonable. They're no dearer than anything else because we'll use like King race bearings and things like that. The pistons aren't madly expensive, but other stuff can be, like the oil pumps and that, they stick a premium on. So
yeah,
just because it's a Cosworth, but it ain't, it's a bloody Pinto pump. And the second-hand parts, absolutely ludicrous these days.
Yeah, what is it for a crank now, a standard crank?
About 1,500 quid, 2 grand, if you can find one.
Mental.
Similar sort of money for the blocks, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the heads as well, so as long as you've got the main components, you're all right. But we've seen them in here before where people have supplied a donor engine that they bought second hand, which once upon a time were a couple of grand. Now they're like 6.5 grand. And all that's been left by the time we've stripped it and told them what's scrap is maybe the head and the crank. Everything else is knackered. So it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. Well guys, thank you very much for watching today's video. Remember to comment down below on what you think about those prices. Too dear, too cheap? Let me know. See you in another video. Cheers guys.